Welcome to Uno Mas. Today we talk to Matthew McCleskey. He is a content creator that has a sketch animation comedy YouTube channel and in my opinion has perfected the art style that is EbSynth animation. If you're unaware of what that animation style is, it's this right here. You can see it. So, well, if you're not an audio listener, in which case I'd encourage you to go check out the video. But either way, the conversation that I had with him is by far one of my favorites, and I cannot recommend it enough. That being said, I do feel the need to preface it a little bit in saying that at times we get into a little more of the technical talk and the mechanics of animation. And so if we start using terminology that you're maybe not so aware of and feel overwhelmed with, just stick with us because we do kind of circle back around and explain it a little bit more. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thanks for tuning in to Uno Mas. Well, I suppose I will get into our questions. What kind of hobbies do you like to do? Often content creation is a hobby. I don't quite know what stage of that you're in. I don't know if you do that a good amount for work. I mean, you're a large enough channel. I assume that's a decent amount of income, but yeah. I don't really know, and obviously with views don't dictate where somebody starts doing that as their primary source, but I don't know, just maybe it is still content creation, but what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, for fun, video games are a big part of that. I think that's probably obvious looking at the channel. I do like music. It's not something I've I play guitar. It's not something I've really done at the forefront for a while, but it's fun to pick up every once in a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of time is taken up by making videos, so it's most of the time in my free time I'm just playing games.
Gotcha.
Or watching TV while I work.
What's your kind of go-to game? At least at the moment.
It changes. At the moment, I'm playing Spider-Man 2. Getting to the end of that. I've been having a good time. And I just played both Little Nightmares games since it's the spooky season. And those were surprise hard hitters. I'd never played them before.
No,
but they're really good. And they're really short, which is nice.
I have a friend that was saying that those games are a lot of fun, but I never played them. Is that on PC as well, or is that a console kind of thing?
I think they're on everything.
Okay.
Oh, thank goodness.
You plan to, or have you played any of the new Lord of the Rings game come out yesterday?
Moria, is that it?
Yeah, Return to Moria.
I didn't know when that was coming out. I remember seeing an announcement or something. You're saying oh, that'd be cool. And I think I saw you playing it earlier today, and I was like, is that out?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was playing that on my lunch break today. Yeah, it came out yesterday. It was weird because I only discovered it because I looked into it was upcoming survival crafting games or something, like one of those type of videos.
Yeah.
And overall, I don't feel like it was very wasn't marketed very
I haven't seen any advertising for it.
Largely, yeah. Kind of came out of nowhere in a way. But I've been really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of cool seeing because it takes place after the events of Lord of the Rings. So it's in what age would that be? Is it 4th? Maybe that. But anyway, and so you're going through the caves and there's different references to the Fellowship and stuff. So it's kind of it's fun from a story perspective, but then also gameplay's pretty fun.
Huh.
But
I'm going to give that a shot then.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it. I'm also not too far into it, so maybe after a couple hours it just plummets. I don't know, but it's it is. I'm enjoying it.
Well, it's just survival crafting, so that usually means they'll add stuff later.
Yeah, that's true.
That's typically how those go.
Yeah, that is true. You had said that you play the guitar a bit. What kind of music do you tend to listen to?
That's such a hard thing to pin down for me. It's all over the place.
Yeah, and I guess I should I guess I should again clarify, maybe like narrow it down to like at the moment, if that helps any. But even then,
It
it could
doesn't.
be
Day by day, it is wildly different. Um, some days, I'm just listening to like video game or movie soundtracks. Some days it's sea shanties are a big part that keep getting back into circulation.
yeah.
And then rock, punk, grunge, kind of in that
Hmm.
areas normally where I'm at.
Gotcha. When it comes to rock and all that kind of like, what would be some of the bands?
Oh man.
Because I'm never great with like genre and
Mhm.
stuff, and like being like somebody says, whatever genre they're interested in, and it's like, oh, cool. I don't know how to refine on what that sounds like. Like I'm trying to
Yeah.
think, and I'm not good with that sort of categorization of music, but like bands, on the other hand, a little bit easier.
Can I check? Wait,
Did it pop up with
I was what?
challenge?
It did, and I clicked it because I thought there was something I could do, and it just said you can't.
Oh,
I was like, oh great. um, what is this?
oh, the
Oh,
little
the Uno
exclamation.
call. Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um, so I like the Beatles a lot. That's just
Hmm.
from growing up. My dad liked them a lot. Uh, Tenacious D is like a band I'll listen to on like an odd day
Hmm.
because like their songs are all goofy and like not serious, but their sound is so great alongside. It's
Yeah.
um I don't know. There's I kind of these days I kind of let Spotify and it's like genre radio take the helm.
Gotcha. Kind of like let it formulate what you listen to.
Yeah, and I'll just skip if I don't like
Right.
it.
Yeah. I mean, that's always a decent approach.
Oh, got him this time.
I feel like Spotify has it's got its algorithm kind of like pinpointed down, like really nicely. Like I feel like often there's a song stuck in my head, and I will then use that, and it plays the freaking song that was in my head.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
I think it generally knows what I want to listen to. But
There was this guitar riff I had in my head for like at this point a majority of my life, and I could never find the song. And I just started to be convinced that maybe I just made it up. I don't I don't know where this is from. I can't find it. And one day I was just listening to music while I was working, and it just played the song that had it in there. And like it was like gaining consciousness for the first time. It was crazy.
I see. So something I kind of like the idea of doing, and I've been doing, is listing or asking a very strange hypothetical question. But today I was like, man, I've asked that question, I feel like the last like 4 episodes of this podcast. And so to vary it a little bit, I went to Chat GPT. I was like, hey, I like strange hypotheticals. And here is the one that I usually go with.
Okay.
Make me a similar one. And so I have the potential of 2. And so to distinguish between the 2, why don't you pick a number between 1 and 100?
38.
Okay, so that's even. Okay, you get the old question.
Okay.
So let's say that you were to wake up tomorrow and you have sprouted an udder on your belly like a cow. Okay.
Uh-huh.
You got 4 different, like each teat
Okay. Yeah.
can dispense indefinitely a different liquid. And you can just
How many
produce
teats
that.
do I have?
You have 4.
4 teats. Okay.
Yes, I may have skipped that part, but I was going to circle back to it if I did. What liquids are you choosing to be able to dispense?
Okay. Water, coffee, easy too. I think with our orange juice in there, and then Um, chocolate milk.
Those are pretty solid choices. I yeah, I feel like the other aspect of that question is I feel like anybody who's listening to episode after episode knows my answers, and they're like, "Oh, for God's sake, just skip this part." Um, but yeah, I think that
But I have to know. What are you? Yeah, what are
yeah,
yours?
well, exactly. It's like you don't know, but I don't know, maybe you don't care, but I think water is a good option. I think I might. Well, I should probably go with water because it would be it's probably the healthy approach. Have at least one thing that's decent in there, and then I'll probably
Mm-hmm.
go with like the sugared up coffee that I go for, like a caramel latte or something,
Mm-hmm.
and then despite it being memed to death, I do like G Fuel. I like the flavors.
I've never tried it.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I like the flavors. There's a wide variety of them, so I'm sure there's something for everybody. But
Yeah.
it's I mean, yeah, I like it. Recommend it. But they have a flavor that is called gummy worms.
Okay.
I don't know why I said it's called gummy worm. It tastes like gummy worms, and it is so insanely accurate. It's just weird. Like it's kind of got that like tartness to it, but like somehow
Yeah.
it's still refreshing. It's weird, but I very
Huh.
much enjoy that one, and so I'd probably do that for teat number 3, and then probably I think a different guest had said this, but I had agreed with it. Is go away from the like drinkable option. I mean, I guess you could, but gasoline is
Oh, that's
because
smart.
it is a liquid, and so that could be beneficial.
Don't mix it up with another teat, though.
It, yeah, yeah, that's probably a dangerous game. I'd probably have to like tattoo the one, so
Yeah.
so then I know which one not to dispense into a cup. But yeah, that's my answers.
I still thought hot water would be good. That's versatile.
Hmm.
You just got to get tea bags and then you're ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. Now, okay, I want your opinion on this one because I have a friend that I generally call him on my way home from work, and I presented this question to him. It was a while back now, but one of his answers, I'm conflicted on if it should count. But he said liquid ore, like silver or gold or something, but like
Oh,
liquid. And I'm like, I mean, it fits the criteria, but like,
it does, but that would be like molten.
yeah, exactly. Like, so do you think that the udder would like have adapted to be able to handle that? Or like, I guess, what are the confines of this question? It is hypothetical, so it could go either way, but like, what's your input?
Is there an example of that in biology
I
anywhere?
don't
Is
think so.
any?
That's the
I
problem.
don't. I don't think. I don't think it could happen.
Okay. See, I was going going back and forth for a while, and then I started thinking of the location of that molten hot liquid in proximity to other areas of one's body, and I'm like, oh, I don't want that, and so I
Mhm.
just chose to disregard it. But then I'm still thinking, I'm like, yeah, but you can make a lot of money off of that. So like, is it?
That's true.
I don't know. So anyway, weird hypothetical and awkward questions, but so now I guess narrowing down into getting started on your time on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
The animation style obviously was inspired by Joel Haver and his
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just putting that resource out there, like, hey, this is how I do it.
Yeah.
Um, but and honestly, with yours, I mean, I know that you add a lot of elements to it. In my opinion, I feel that you've refined it to make it like
Oh, thank you.
a lot better, but also like not to take away from like Joel's. Like I still like they're separate, but I do think you've improved on it.
Yeah, it's just a stylistic difference.
Yeah.
Like even going back, I still think that, like kind of the smeary aspect of it, like it adds something.
Hmm.
But I tend to do a lot more movement in my own. So when I didn't take away all that extra smearing, it got real messy. So I needed to figure out how to clean that up a bit.
Yeah. Is that the when you apply a mask to it? Is that
Yeah.
primarily
So
what it
every
is?
time I'll finish my export and then I'll export it once as all PNG sequences with the background transparent, and then I'll export them all again as just black and white mats.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I'd watched I didn't watch the whole thing. I wasn't being that obsessive, but I did watch you had a 3-hour long stream where it was just
Oh
you
yeah, yeah.
editing it was the getting mail in 2023, or
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
don't recall the
Just
year. I think it was 2023 in the title, but where it's
I
just
think
like,
so.
emptying the mailbox, chucking it in the trash. Well, which is also funny. But I was watching that. I'm like I liked that you were doing the masks and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's a cool. I didn't think about that. I always seen that in, I don't know if it's EbSynth or EbSynth. I don't.
Uh, they they say it's EbSynth, but the B is lowercase, which to me would indicate that it's EbSynth, because if it would be they both be capitalized, so it was EbSynth. I don't know.
Yeah.
I say
Also,
EbSynth.
EbSynth sounds cooler in my
That's what I
opinion.
thought.
So but there's a lot of functionality in that, like the different settings that I didn't even really, because as soon as I saw that video of Joel's pop up, like how I do this, I
Hmm.
was looking into it and started toying with it myself. And then because I was watching so much of that, then you got recommended, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I think I've seen this video before. And then I started doing this deep dive on like watching your videos.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know where I was going with that fully. I was mentioning just Absinthe, all the
Hmm.
additional things you can do. But in that live stream, uh, I was like looking, I'm like, oh, that's a lot of cool things that I could add. And then you go into Blender, and I'm like, oh, that's a little complicated for me, but it's fun to watch.
Even for me, still, even for me, I could do the bare minimum.
Yeah, because I also with Blender, I had the idea. I'm like, because I have my main gaming channel that I just do different stuff with, and then I
Yeah.
started a Star Wars channel a while back to kind of go alongside my buddy and I's podcast, where we kind of wanted to
Mhm.
walk through and break down different Star Wars stuff. And I was trying to think. I'm like, I don't have like props or stormtrooper armor. What would be a good
Mhm.
way to animate a stormtrooper? And then I started playing around in Blender because I had the idea, what if I were to use these free AI motion capture softwares
Mhm.
to then rig it up and then animate that? And then it just got way too complicated, so I gave up on it. Just
Yeah.
but it's just Blender's complicated, so I was kind of like in awe of like some of the stuff you were, even though it's probably, I mean, like you had kind of said, it's maybe more surface level, somewhat, because like still digging into it a bit because it is a complicated
Yeah.
program.
It's that particular video, I think, was just dragging in a model and then just making one part of it move,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, it's still complicated if you've like barely used 3D software, but um yeah, everything I do in Blender outside of that, I have like 8 tutorials pulled up at any given
Oh,
time.
gotcha.
And I'm going like click by click and getting confused. And Blender
Mhm.
will just not behave the way it did for the person in the video for me. That happens all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did the video. I don't even remember what I titled it, but it's the stormtroopers talking about how like every planet is like one climate.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna
So
ask you
that
about how you did that one.
yeah, so that one was all in Blender, but
Okay.
I was kind of I started working on it kind of like just before like there was a really good like footage to mocap solution online.
Hmm.
So I had to go. I This is where me and Blender had our biggest fight. I was trying to get an Xbox Connect to work as a motion capture device, and the amount of complicated settings tweaking and all that to get it to work was a nightmare, but I finally got it to work. And then you just kind of hit record in Blender, and then I just stood there and just kind of gesticulated for like 5 minutes, and then just had to put them in place in the scene, and then put the cameras in, and just record clips and edit with those. But I wouldn't recommend that. It wasn't great.
See,
you could also use Mixamo is great because you just upload a 3D model. It's through Adobe, but it's free, and you just
oh, you know what? I did come
yeah,
across that because there was a it was the AI motion capture where it was called like Rococo Studio,
oh my god, I won. Yeah,
and you upload a video to that, but it doesn't have any field like really of depth or anything. So it was kind of a little wonky. And then I got a 14-day free trial of this. You set up multiple cameras so it has different angles, and even then it was wacky. So it's kind of, but
really?
in there, what was it called? So the Adobe one.
Oh, Mixamo.
Okay, yeah. That was part of the process there because you would like get the motion capture data and then like to prepare your model for it or whatever you would.
Yeah, because it auto rigs it, and then there's a ton of animations you can just pick out. I don't know if you went back far enough to see the Big Oron music video parody thing.
So
that was well, some of it was game footage, but mostly Blender, and that was like all Mixamo animations.
Oh, okay. So yeah, weird thing. So I usually what I do when I have a guest on this is I will take their most popular video and ask some questions about that, and then I'll take their first video and kind of compare, like do some different things, like I guess looking back and then where you are now, looking at the contrast with yours after first like it being recommended to me. After that I had started watching a couple of them, and just it kept popping up on my homepage. So I watched a good amount of your videos, and then I was like, yeah, I'd like to have a conversation with him. I think that'd be fun to have and talk more about, like, well, you as a creator. And so I started doing that, and I would go back to the first video, and then I realized that I've already watched quite a few of your videos. So I'm like, I'll just watch them all. So I did a good amount of way more research than I probably should have, but I like the consistency across all the videos and the humor in it. So
thank you.
But I do recall that video and the song that went along with it.
Yes. Yeah, that I knew that was gonna majorly underperform because it's so different, but I just had the idea and I hadn't seen it done, and I was like, I have to make it. I got to get it out of my system.
I see. So initially when I brought up the animation style and everything, I had kind of diverted away from where I was initially aiming to ask. The rest of that question is, obviously you got that animation style and you've moved since then, and it has obviously performed very well. But prior to learning that, what had motivated you to start posting on YouTube?
I think just like growing up, I was on like early YouTube watching stuff. YouTube had kind of just been around, so I like got to see the start of like now the biggest channels that exist. So kind of just watching that happen, and just realizing like, oh, this is a real thing that you can do as a job. It just it inspired young me. I've had multiple channels over the years. I think only one is still up right now. If you want to go look back, it's called the Purple Ninja 1000, and it is stick figure animations from, I can't even remember the name of the program. That's all it did was stick figure animations.
Was it by chance Pivot?
It was Pivot. That's right.
I spent way too much time in that program.
It was so much fun.
It was. I used to I don't know. That was God, I used to. This is kind of fun, rediscovering some of this animation stuff, because after seeing Joel's video and then looking into the things that you've added to it, I've been like just really more into it. But like when I was younger, I used to like, I don't know, take my grandma's VHS recorder, like
Mm-hmm.
a camera, and instead of figuring out a way to like, well, actually, I don't know if there would be a way to just capture one frame. So I remember I used to have like these clay figure. It looked like crap. I have to preface it there. I mean, and I think
Okay.
through talking about the process, guaranteed it's going to. But to simulate that one frame, I'd go start recording, end recording, move it, start recording, just like double tap the button basically.
Oh wow, yeah,
It was bad. Half the frames had my freaking hand in them. It was just, but it was just kind of that fun, like learning about what goes into animation and then not being able to
yeah,
fully execute it well, but trying.
yeah. I
Um,
think even before stick figure stuff, I started with doing the same thing. I did have a camera that could take pictures, but I was doing Lego
mm,
stop motion. I think that's really where I began. Yeah,
hmm. um, but that to say that ended up leading into a pivot stick figure animator. And
yeah.
so I did
That's the
spend a good amount
pipeline.
of time there. It's funny you say Lego too, because my last guest, his name's Mike Crocker. He has a
Mhm,
YouTube channel called Micro, where it's just Lego animation. And
mhm.
so he talked a little bit about that, and it was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of cool, and like thinking back on that, kind of got the gears turning again on maybe desiring to try animation. But
Yeah, especially nowadays, like even just the visual fidelity from just like not using a first generation digital camera and using a phone.
yeah, yeah. Um, just because now I'm thinking of all this stuff. Today,
Mhm.
I'd started a new animation on that Star Wars channel, just Stormtrooper
Yeah,
related again. Um, but I feel like there's something so satisfying about creating that scene, like in it, just like you have the characters and stuff, but actually constructing the setting. Something's kind of just
yeah,
really neat about that. I was just really thinking that
yeah.
today, but
That's I mean that's my favorite part of the process when you start to get the animated characters in, you start to do backgrounds and like
mhm,
comping them in and effects and stuff, and you can see it play out and look nice.
mhm.
It's when you get the vision that's in your head onto the screen. That's the best part.
Yeah, definitely. So I had asked what motivated you to start posting on YouTube. Similar to that, who would you say, or what would you say, are your comedic inspirations? Like, where does your sense of humor, do you think, come from?
Oh man, nowadays, um, I'm a major fan of Flight of the Concords, number one. Actually, number two. Weird Al's number one. That's for sure.
Hmm.
um, but Flight of the Concords and like uh, let's. I've come to notice that it's not American humor that inspires me because I'm about to name off like uh super recent, like Auntie Donna is hilarious. Flight of the Concords, like the and like what anything made by like, well, maybe not most recent Marvel stuff, but like I kind of vibe with Taika Waititi's humor, especially when
Oh, yeah.
like Jermaine Clement's a part of it. Like What We Do in the Shadows, I think is the funniest show to have ever been made. um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I also I grew up with like Smosh and Fred, but
Mhm.
what kid didn't, I guess.
Well, yeah.
um, I don't know. I I consume a lot of comedy, so it's
Gotcha.
hard to pinpoint.
Yeah, and some of those, I mean, actually, probably the majority of what you listed there I have not heard of.
Oh,
So
really?
that is, well, Weird Al, obviously, and Flight of
Yes, of
the
course.
Conchords. I have heard of. I don't know if I'd be able to pinpoint it on like the stuff, but the other stuff, not a lot of it. But my point with that is that I think that's kind of fun because now I have something I'm going to go try to look up and learn
Yeah.
and kind of learn about. But yeah,
It's not letting me play a card. What? No, I had green. Okay.
do you have? I think I think the answer is probably assumed, but do you have a background in film?
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, filmmaking was like my hobby since like growing up, like starting at like the pivot stick figure animated
Mm-hmm.
days. I was pirating copies of Adobe software and teaching myself how to use it, and watching like Film Riot and Inti Mogul, kind of teaching myself as I grew up. And then I went to college for, it wasn't for film, it was for media arts, which included like radio and television, which isn't the part I was interested in. Um, so yeah, been kind of doing that all my life.
Okay. Yeah, it was kind of. I mean, I kind of figured. It's definitely like, I don't know. It seems like with your, especially with the videos, it kind of seems more natural. Like there may be like that kind of thought process behind it, but then also like looking at the earlier stuff before it was animation, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it had that kind of like short film um,
Yeah.
feel to it. So I figured I'd ask, but yeah, there's a good amount of information in the what was it? How to spice up your EbSynth animations, as well as
Mm.
the how I animate VOD. I was wondering, I guess if you could give a breakdown, maybe even it could just be surface level, but like from the idea to publish, kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
process that goes behind a video of yours.
Yeah. So, um, oh, one thing that would be good to mention is, so like right around when Joel's video came out, um, there was like a small community of, uh, at least I was a part of a small community. Maybe there was a bigger one, but we were just kind of discussing the process and like playing around with it. And I was talking to, uh, he goes by Dr. LMAO on, I guess on YouTube and Twitter and all the platforms, but
Okay.
he's the one who's played like Mace Windu in one or two of my videos.
Yeah, I
So we were,
was trying to figure out where I'd heard that name, and
yeah,
it
that's
might have
it.
been that. It might have been because he had been in your videos. A couple of
Yeah,
them.
so we were just like talking about the process, and then I think it was him who figured out like Joel said, you draw your frame, then you put green behind it so you can key it out later. He's like, oh, you don't even have to do that. EbSynth knows what transparency is. I was like, oh, great, that's one way to do this a little bit faster.
Yeah, yeah.
And that
I
kind of started.
learned that from your video.
Mhm.
I was like, oh,
And then
that definitely speeds it up.
we were both toying around with the matte input, which is, or what, I guess they call it mask. I don't remember. It's the mask
I
input.
mean, it's
I just checked.
anonymous, really.
Yeah.
But,
And
yeah.
we were seeing how that affects it. And that's when we found like, oh, if you apply that, like your character will still smear if like an arm passes in front of its body or something, but it stays within the shape of a character, which is super helpful in making it look clean. And so that's how we kind of started with refining it a bit.
Hmm.
And then I took that a step further with like, comping effects. But the process now is, sometimes I'll write the video, sometimes I won't. Like a few of my best performing ones, I've just kind of gone up and like just gone like, okay, I'm going to do Anakin's lines, and I'll just kind of improv a number of lines that could fit at any point in the video, and then I'll swap over, do a different character. Here we go, same thing, and then I'll kind of build it in the edit. It can get kind of crazy when you have to juggle. I think in the force healing video it was like 4 or 5 characters. I can't remember. Some large amount where I was just improvising lines and trying to remember what I said as other characters reply to myself. And then I get all that footage. I'll put it in. I'll edit it as best I can. Then I do like I use DaVinci Resolves, and they have like a Magic Mask, which is like Adobe's Roto Brush, but their version. So I'll do that. I'll key out green screens and stuff till I just have the characters. Like I mentioned earlier, I'll just export that. The whole timeline, each clip goes into its own folder as a PNG sequence. One that's just the normal shot. The other is the matte input. And then I draw for ever. And then when it comes to like backgrounds, like for Star Wars videos, I found that some of the mods for Jedi Academy have like 3D recreations of like any scenario that has ever been in Star Wars. Any niche scene that you think about, they've made a background for it. So I'll just go in and record backgrounds, take pictures and stuff, and then I'll bring it all back in and do the final comping and effects and stuff. Sometimes I'll get shots that I forgot to get or might need to serve a new idea.
So, sorry, never mind. I will come back to that thought. I didn't want to cut you off.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
The Jedi Academy thing. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more? Like, is it scenes within the game, or like it would be, or is it like game files? Like,
there's a mod called.
Oh, duh, you said mods, but
yeah, there's a mod called Movie Duels. There's also movie battles too, but like Movie Duels is like designed with the express purpose of being able to recreate every fight that has happened in Star Wars and like play it through Jedi Academy, which works great for this purpose. I've also used things like Gary's mod for like non-Star Wars stuff. Sometimes I'll just build scenes in there with like props that you can get off Workshop and stuff. And sometimes it's just like, using stock photos and things like that. I'll do it a whole bunch of different ways.
That's really cool. Just thinking about like, and especially seeing some of those walkthroughs of like you editing and you doing this, it is kind of cool how you've taken a lot of you've made things that I would not have even have thought of into resources to be creative and accomplish maybe the goal or whatever. There's a lot of creative resources that I did not know existed that you have brought to my attention, is what I guess I'm trying to say, which is really cool. Like, I didn't think about constructing a scene like in Gmod, even as simple as that seems.
Yeah, it's like doing it in 3D software, but like in a way that's a lot more comfortable because it's just playing a game.
Yeah. Huh. Speaking of the actual, like, I guess, filming of it, how essential, I mean, I guess, how essential are realistic props? Like, obviously props are essential, because EbSynth needs something to track. But like, I guess my main ones were like, in a couple of them you have a sword, and I think in your live stream maybe it was a wooden sword, maybe.
Yeah, that was stolen from an art teacher's classroom at one point. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
That's all right. We can move past that. What's up?
All right. Well, But then I was wondering. Actually, I'm sorry, I can't ignore that. You want to? Can we talk about that?
Yeah. So it was this teacher who, it was like a digital media class in high school. All of our lessons were printed out from WikiHow, and starting the class, I knew more than she did. But she did, like, it was just like a wooden sword in the corner, and she like didn't claim ownership of it. She was just like, I don't know what that is, or like why it's here. Nobody touched that, just because, like, don't touch the sword in the classroom, kids. But yeah, I don't know. And then one day I was walking out, one of my friends just grabbed it off the wall, handed it to me while we were walking out of class. He's like, here you go. And I was now in the hallway with the sword. I was just like, it's too late now. It's got to go.
Too late. I'm already committed. Mine. That's funny. Okay.
Yep.
That's great. What I was going to move on to before being unable to stop thinking about that is how do you construct a lightsaber in your animations? I figure, and I might be wrong in assuming, but maybe the saber plugin in After Effects is part of it. Or is it?
It is not. So
It isn't.
sometimes
Okay.
I will. There's a few different ways depending on like the type of shot. Like if it's just like one of the shots where they're igniting it and they're just kind of like holding it in front of them,
Mm-hmm.
I will, in Photoshop when I'm drawing, to then put into EbSynth, I'll just make the blade like chroma key green, and then when I'm doing effects later, I can key out just the blade and then reverse the matte that makes, so I'm left with like only that part, only the blade. Use that. Let's see, how do I do this? I use that to mask out a white solid so it only matches the blade. Then I apply the glow effects to that.
Oh.
And then other times I'll just do, the typical frame by frame, create a white solid and just animate the mask over the blade.
Huh.
But I think those are the two ways I go about it.
Okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That would for sure work, and I feel like that would probably be maybe a bit easier than trying to track that whole After
sometimes it
Effects
is
thing. Because
sometimes it's not at all. But
yeah. Huh. That's pretty neat.
But yeah, with like this is also one of my favorite things about this style of animating is that the costuming can just be wild.
Oh yeah.
Some of the looks that I have been in on camera that nobody has seen are just wild. Like,
yeah, I was thinking. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
You're good. You're good.
That was one of the things I was thinking, that like it'd be so fun, and obviously not for the creator, but to see like behind the scenes footage,
Mm-hmm.
primarily because I had the question in a specific video, every episode of Seinfeld.
Yes.
What did you put on your head for Kramer?
It's just a beanie, but like unrolled all the way and just lightly placed on top, so it kind of has some of that flop.
That some of that flop. That makes sense. But like, just your brain can go wild, because I know that it needs something to track, but then looking at the movement of it, I'm sitting there, I'm like, what did he put on his head? And so
For the longest time, I recently, for some of the more recent Star Wars videos, I like bought an Anakin costume and it comes with like the robe and everything, so I've been using that. Before it was like a scarf crossed in front, like around the back of my neck and crossed in front of my body, with a belt and then a graduation gown on top of all of that.
That makes sense. I mean, it would construct it.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
And that's like a no budget Jedi costume that looks fantastic when you can put it in EbSynth and just draw over it.
Yeah. What is the craziest, I guess, get up or workaround kind of thing have you ever done to achieve a look in an animation?
I don't know if this wins. I'd have to think about it, but off the top of my head is uh Gollum at the like little end card thing on the Lord of the Rings video, which
Yeah.
is like swim cap and underwear with like a t-shirt tied around my waist. Like there's some things where I would just behind the scenes footage stays in the vault.
Yeah, I was gonna
Will
say
not come out.
with some of it, I imagine that it's like, all right, animation is done. This is never seeing the light of day. If I
Yes.
could burn it, I would.
Yes.
Yeah. But it did what it was supposed to. It looks good in the animation. But
Right.
it is kind of
Exactly.
funny thinking about that's now, I don't know your living situation if you have anybody around, but has anybody ever
Mhm.
caught you in a very weirdly like that sort of thing?
Yeah, my wife sometimes likes to peek in the door while I'm filming. Sometimes I'll be like on the floor or whatever in costume. I'll just kind of glance over at the door and I'm just like, hey, I'm busy.
Oh, I have not gone too deep into like that sort of like, like making a costume sort of like
Uh,
that, like to that extent, primarily because I've done one animation like that
yeah.
and am still heavily learning it. Um, but like I've had that thought several times where like, cause I personally, I kind of get in my own head quite a bit where it's like, if it's just me recording, I'm more aware of how I'm presenting myself and all this other stuff. And it's like, I can achieve the task, I feel like a little bit easier. Whereas if my
Hmm.
wife's home, I'm like thinking is like, can she hear me? And like,
Yeah.
my brain is always there. So like just the thought of
Yeah.
like,
Same.
I feel like I would just constant, like, God, don't walk in.
I was I was waiting on it was like a big package to come. So like I had to like answer the door to get the package, but I also
Mhm.
needed to film that day. So and I didn't know when it was coming and I waited most of the day and I was like, okay, I just got to film it. It's fine. It's one of the videos I had to be in deep costume for. And then, like, I think the second I took off the last piece of the costume after filming, there was a knock at the door, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I was so close to having to answer the door in full costume, just be like, please don't ask, I'll sign, thank you, bye bye."
Oh man. So I guess I have this section in here. I feel like we've talked a lot about the process behind the animation. If
Hmm.
for any reason somebody like were to, well, first off, if anybody were to be listening to this at all, but if anybody's not aware of like what EbSynth is, you basically record a video of like acting as the character or whatever you need,
Hmm.
and then you export each frame of that video as a image, draw
Hmm.
over a few of them images, depending on amount of movement and whatever, and then plug it into this program called EbSynth or EbSynth, but never mind about that one. Um, and it will like basically map that drawing to the rest of the frames and have an output, and then you have a fully animated character.
Yeah, it, like, interpolates the drawings
Yeah,
to match
yeah.
the same type of movement, yeah.
And with that, if there's too much movement, it will kind of veer off path, sometimes track something entirely different and kind of mess up
Mhm.
and all that. So that's kind of just in case any listener did not know about that. But now the question that's leading to: do you have any like sort of I guess ideal interval of keyframes you stick to, or is it solely based on movement?
It's it's based on movement, but
Yeah.
I do find that I hit, like, similar frame numbers. Like, there's there's my favorite, which is the one frame shot. Those are wonderful. Usually if there's a decent amount of movement, it's 4 frames.
I guess
I
actually, sorry, I
I don't know
guess,
why. Go ahead.
are you saying four keyframes or four?
Yeah, 4 keyframes.
So I guess to clarify, I guess a little bit more,
Mhm.
what duration of shot is that representative of?
Um, I don't even know that it's any specific duration. Like it really just
I guess.
depends on movement. You really want to,
Okay.
you just want to pick the keyframes like usually before and after a movement
Yeah.
is the keyframes you'd want to include because like when something's in motion, it kind of hides that smeary jank. Not that you want to hide it; it's kind of part of it. But like
Yeah, it's kind of
your
part of the
brain is more
animation
willing to
style's
accept
charm.
seeing it when it's uh, in motion. So
Hmm.
if you pick a frame before and after, that's like the important part. Like if I you swing a weapon across, like it goes in front of your character, you want to have before and after because that's when you're going to see like their face and everything.
Hmm.
And in between, it'll kind of take care of itself. The brain knows how to fill in that space and understand like the implied motion.
Hmm.
So um, you just got to look for the moments
Yeah.
where you can like see the face and everything.
Okay. With EbSynth, do you adjust any of the advanced settings at all, or is I mean,
Yeah, I had a moment in time with Goat on a Stick, who's another creator
Mhm.
who does animations like this, and we would just take a shot and we would just shift settings around because they have explanations as to what they do on the EbSynth website.
Yeah,
They weren't that clear to us, so
nor me.
we would just push the settings around and see how it affected the same shot, and we did that for a while until I don't think we landed on the same numbers, but I definitely found my own that I'll use as a basis for every shot. And it works for like 95% of them. Sometimes
Oh,
I'll be like, maybe I'll tweak this a bit just to see if I get a better result.
huh.
Um,
Okay. I
which is
yeah, I looked into them some and couldn't really figure out what they did, and then I looked at the website and got more confused, and it was just like I don't really know what this is, and maybe I'll test it some, and then I guess I didn't do it a lot, but I didn't really see much
mhm.
difference, so I was like kind of just like, yeah, I guess
Yeah,
maybe
it's
more
kind of a
keyframes.
subtle thing.
I don't know.
Unless you crank it like crazy, then you start to see differences. But
Mm,
uh, I just changed the weight on video to 10, mapping to 30, deflicker to 1.5.
hmm,
If
okay.
that helps.
I mean, I'll give it a shot when I continue the animation I'm working on now. See what that does. See if I notice a difference, and
Mhm.
maybe can interpret it further. But um, in your one stream that you did, where it was you editing, it looks like you do primarily edit in DaVinci Resolve. Then
Yes.
you also do have After Effects and I believe Photoshop, right?
Mhm.
Um, w-
Photoshop I'll use for drawing, but
yeah,
I kind of despise the rest of Adobe, to be
yeah.
honest.
I was just gonna ask the kind of. I feel like often because I follow a lot of editing channels, and it seems like one of the debates is Premiere versus Resolve. And
Mhm.
so I was wondering what would be your case for Resolve? Like, why do you
Yeah. So
prefer that?
Adobe just has this thing about it where like I mean, the first and foremost, it's like the subscription model
Oh
that's
yeah, yeah.
just predatory at this point, and at this point is so overpriced for what it is.
Hmm.
Um, and they don't like the programs are so old and they haven't ever been rewritten. So it's just code piling on top of code for decades and decades
Hmm.
until it's just bugs pop up from a random string of code from forever ago. And every time they add new features, which they're doing at an increasing rate at this point, it breaks more. It gets frustrating when they push out so many updates and every update is just different bugs.
Hmm.
Not like there's more or less. It's just different things don't work now.
Yeah.
And I just got tired of having to like, oh, it's exporting weird. Okay, time to install the previous version and run it again and see if it works. I don't know. I didn't like it.
Gotcha.
But DaVinci will, and the crashes also. That's huge. Oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
crashes, losing data, infuriating.
Mhm.
But DaVinci, I got the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, and it
Mm.
came with the studio version, which is
Oh,
a $300 one-time fee, and you have the pro version of the program forever.
yeah.
Already a one up on Adobe.
That is very appealing, I think.
And that's a lot of just like niche advanced features
Yeah.
and using your GPU to its full power, which
Mm.
is helpful. But you can definitely just use DaVinci for free
Yeah.
because they're a hardware company first and foremost. So that's where their main money comes from.
Hmm.
So they don't have to raise prices like crazy.
Yeah.
But
I
it also like saves per click. Mm, love that.
like
On the
an
rare occasion
autosave.
it does, yeah, on the rare
Oh,
occasion it does crash, you'll never lose more than like a minute of work.
whoa.
It's crazy.
Huh. Yeah, looking at your video and seeing you edit in it, even just minorly, um, I was kind of reconsidering because, like, I do have
Hmm.
Adobe products, but and I think honestly, I probably wouldn't still have them, but I had been fortunate enough in my current position at work. They have a marketing department,
Yeah,
and
nice.
then they were like, "Yeah, we're not quite sure how to edit our videos." And then my supervisor's just like wide-eyed pointing at me like, "Hey, this guy, him. Like I heard that he edits." And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, cool." So then they bought Creative Cloud and pay for it for me. So it's not out of my pocket. So I'm like, "Okay,
Nice.
I'll deal with it and I'll learn this."
Yeah, if it's
But
free to you, like it's, I don't
yeah,
know,
but
I guess it's worth using.
yeah, prior to that I had been paying for it, but I had also worked at a educational institution, so I was able to get that discount.
Yeah, right.
But then moving positions, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to keep this because I, I
Hmm.
I really do dislike the subscription model as well.
Yeah.
Um, but if I'm not having to pay for it, I'm a little more lenient on that part, on that stance.
Right.
But yeah, no, I get that part. And but looking at your live stream of how you were doing that, it did look. I liked the there was a view of it. It was like node view, maybe
Yes,
that
so
I
that
I liked. That was kind of cool.
Fusion
You
is
could
what
have
they
two
call,
different processes.
it's like their version of After Effects, which by the way, also DaVinci, like Adobe has, the Premiere for like your nonlinear editor,
Mhm,
After Effects for like your uh like VFX, motion graphics, that type of thing, and then like Audition for your audio editing.
mhm.
DaVinci just has tabs in the same
Oh,
program. You don't have to have like four things open, all working on
hmm,
separate things. It just does all of it. But yeah, going from After Effects to Fusion and switching from like linear like layer thinking into node thinking, it was super tough getting started, but once it like clicks,
right.
it's just way better.
Hmm,
Because in After Effects you might do a bunch of pre-comping, which just groups and piles a bunch of layers together. So then you're like, oh, I need to change this thing. And you got to click into like 7 pre-comps. And now you're on a different timeline entirely. In nodes, you just look back on your little node graph and find, oh, this is the slot where I would put this effect in, and just drop it in and it changes. It's
hmm.
wonderful.
Um, so do you? I guess what software do you currently? Obviously, DaVinci Resolve, but have you moved
Mhm.
away from using After Effects at all?
Yeah, I I think I used to go back for 3D camera tracks just
Hmm.
because it's After Effects does a couple things really well, which is Rotobrush, which is really good, and their 3D camera tracking, which is almost just one click and it works on everything.
Yeah.
Um, Before I like learned how to use DaVinci's, which has a few more steps, but um, it works.
Hmm.
Um, but I've moved away, so the only thing I still use is Photoshop because I still don't think there's really anything that matches that.
Yeah. Hmm. Okay. I was kind of wondering that because I know in your one video, how to spice up your EbSynth animations, it
That's
you had
the
showed,
pre-Da Vinci days.
yeah, and you'd showed that and stuff. But I knew that, I mean, you also did edit in DaVinci, but yeah, I was just wondering. Is there any animation techniques or just simple tips that you would recommend to aspiring animators?
Oh, I would say, lean into what animation is. Like, for my style specifically, or like the EbSynth style, it leans on the animation being realistic looking, but you still have, all of the room of it being animated to do things that you can't do in live action, at least with, a massive budget. So allow animation to let you be creative, show things in an artistic way that wouldn't be possible in live action. Like, I think anime does this a lot. Just like a great example, just like with facial expressions and showing things
Mm.
um and like kind of an artistic way to illustrate a point.
Hmm.
That was a long-winded way to say just be creative, let let animation be animation.
Yeah. Oh no. Okay. I and I'll get to it a little bit later, but I did put out a community post um on the way too many channels that I have. There
Mhm.
was one, two, yeah, and I got different responses, and it was just like, if any of you are content creators or animators, what are some questions that you may have that I may be able to answer in this upcoming interview? Um,
Mhm.
and so I'll get to that towards the end.
Ooh,
But that's
exciting.
kind of why I asked that, because it did seem like there was, I mean, a handful that had answered that were looking into animation and curious
Mhm.
about it, and so, but that's why I asked that. Uh, I was wondering, so you had mentioned with oh, what's his name? Guy who played Mace Windu.
Oh, Dr. LMAO.
Yeah, with him, as well as there was Trent Lenkarski. Nick is not
Yeah.
green. Is it
Mhm.
Shawnee Do?
Shawnee do, yeah.
Yeah. Um, you've done a good variety of collaboration. What
Uh-huh.
does that kind of like? Well, actually, taking a step back from the actually creating content with other creators, um, what does the process of collaboration look like for you? Firstly, thinking of in the sense of like a team. Do you still do all of your editing yourself? Is it still a solo operation?
Yeah, uh I'll do the editing myself, all the effects and stuff myself. Sometimes for like sponsor deadlines,
Mm,
or just like needing to get a video out quick, if it's like a long one that's going to take me like weeks to draw, I'll hire out someone I've worked with to just do some of the drawing, just
mm.
to take some of the workload off.
Yeah, 'cause I mean that's
Um,
a I would, just from my own toying with it, that is like the most time consuming part.
yeah,
So yeah, yeah.
it takes a lot of time. But for like collaborating with other creators, it's normally just like Trent is super good at like improving with his like very dry humor. Like oftentimes when we're filming, I will break constantly. But yeah, we just set up like we'll just get on Discord, we'll get in a call. I will have like, chatted with him a couple of days before, kind of explaining the bit, so he has like time to like think of ways to work with it.
Mhm.
And then we'll both set up with like, a Bluetooth earbud and an ear, and we'll both be recording, and then over Discord we'll kind of just do our thing.
Okay.
And that's kind of how most of the collaborations have gone. Sometimes I'll like have it written before and I can send that over. But
Mm. I,
it's another great thing about this style is they don't have to have like the greatest quality camera or like a great location to
oh
shoot
yeah.
in. It's just like, yeah, you can like Shawnee do, I think used the camera he has set up on his, like the webcam set up for like streams, and just stood far back from his desk, and like that works because I just roto him out and draw over it, and it looks great.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna ask with that, is what that looks like, because I assume that a lot of it's online,
Yeah,
and then
I think all of them have
you
been online so
elaborated.
far.
Yeah. You mentioning Trent Linkarski's sense of humor and stuff. The one that stands out most to me, that as you were saying that just popped into my head, is the him taking on the role of the grandpa in Stardew Valley.
Yes.
He's just laying on the bed and he's just like, yeah, that over there, like that. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
that
know,
one was so
love
funny.
that. But overall, just he does seem to have that kind of, he's got a little more dry of a sense of humor, but like, I don't know, he's very funny. You saying that also, just going back a little bit about like sponsorship deadlines. How do you go about landing sponsorships?
I
Like, how
work
does
with
that?
well, sometimes they'll reach out to me and I can, do the discussion myself. But I work with an agency that some other creators I know are also in, and they'll just come to me with, hey, we have this offer. Is that something you would be interested in? And I can say yes or no. And just like a small cut of the payment for that goes to them for, being the fixer.
Okay.
But yeah, that's way easier than having to filter through all of the emails and like replying to them. And
Yeah.
it's wild how many offers you'll get that you'll reply to that they won't reply back to you. It's like, oh, you came to me. This is your thing.
Oh, like they'll reach out to
They're like, hey, are
you
you
and be
interested in
like,
this?
hey,
Yes, I'm
here's
interested.
an offer, and then you say you're interested, and then never hear anything again from them.
Yeah,
That's
that happens all the time.
I lost it. There's something I was going to say. Oh, your it was in the beginning of your Harry Potter Ravenclaw being the worst house video, that sponsorship for the rings.
Yes.
That one had me. I often, when I'm watching YouTube, it's because I work IT. A lot of the time, I mean, there's tasks to do, but a lot of the time it's just kind of like waiting around for something to go wrong in a way.
Right.
So I'm just like, I'll just watch YouTube. And that one had a couple of different people looking over to me like, what are you doing? Because I was laughing so hard. Just because like the dynamic that you, and then I am a non-disclosed wizard or whatever you said, like
yeah.
and then you can buy all of these and become the lord of the no. I love that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what I'd do for that when they initially contacted me, and then I just thought about it, and I was like, I just like filmed it, and I sent the brand just like the unanimated raw footage. I was like, I feel like this is skirting a line. Are you guys cool with this? And they're like, yes, it's great. And I was like, great. I think it's funny. I'll do it. So that was fun.
Yeah, but you just because we're talking to sponsorships, that's the one that stands out. That one, oh god, that's funny. So moving on to the next kind of section I have. Your most popular video is Stardew Valley after you read the wiki.
Yes.
What, from your perspective, do you feel made this video successful?
I think I'm sure just like the novelty of the animation style at the time was a part of it, but I think it's just like one of the more relatable parts about that game, if not the most relatable part. Just like boiled down to the quickest how do you say this? It just boils down to like a bite-sized piece, It's just real quick, gets the point across, it's funny, and it's extremely relatable, and a popular game. I think all of that is kind of what helped it do well. At the time, I had no clue. It's like, we're at millions of views now. I don't know why that is. I thought it was funny. I didn't know it was that good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean that makes sense because it was kind of like around the time frame where this animation style was kind of first being discovered and
Yeah.
then starting to take off. But then plus, like you said, with just it being simple enough that it's relatable but also funny, I mean that makes sense. Um, you do have a good amount more fairly popular videos. I didn't write down the view counts on them as they stand to
Mhm.
say which ones they were. Um, but with any of them, was there any sort of strategy, or is there ever any kind of, I guess, strategy with your videos, or is it just kind of like,
There's
I think this is funny, I desire to make it? Is that kind of the
yeah,
approach?
that's like 95% of the time. That's the mindset I have is like, oh, this is a funny idea. Not like it's ever like I don't usually think about, oh, is this thing current right now? Would it be fine to make that? I'm just like, I don't know. I'm gonna make a video about uh this specific part in this Star Wars movie that came out in the 90s. It's fine. And Star Wars isn't the greatest example of that because they're like evergreen popular, but
Yeah, yeah,
um, I think that illustrates the point.
yeah.
Only like super recently with like the two, they're not the most recent, like the lightsaber duology as it stands.
Yeah.
Made the first one, it did well, and there were a bunch of different comments with like, oh, he should have done this, or what if he did this, or I thought he was going to do this, and I was like, hey, still could. Let's do another. And that's the only time I've like thought strategy, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, and I mean, I ask because like just kind of curious on like, when videos are more popular, like if there was any kind of strategy behind it. But that being said, it's not that I like when I look at your channel, I see it seems like this sort of thing where it's like, I think this will be funny. This is a piece of art in some ways. This is a thing that I would like to create,
Hmm.
and there I'm going to put it out there. It's not so
Yeah,
much like what's going to perform well. What's the like it. I
yeah.
don't get
And
that
with the
impression. I
process
just
that takes as long as it does, you got to be really planning ahead to hit a trend. Because normally the time it takes to make it, you've already missed your window.
hmm Yeah, actually, that's a that's a whole other perspective on that. Like not really the type of thing that you can act fast on. Um,
Hmm.
re- r- Going back a little bit, I don't know the word I was looking for that I just stumbled over, but going back a little bit to talking about your creative process and stuff. How long does it usually take you to make an animation, like one of these videos?
It's usually about a week. I
Okay.
think I've gotten it down to a week. Normally it's like a day where sometimes there's a writing day and I
Mm.
have to like, I have an idea and it's not like flowing super easily like others. So I'll have to like brute force sit down and like write ideas out until it becomes a script. So that'll be a day. Then there's like a shoot and then initial edit day that's normally on the same day. And then it's like 3 or 4 days of drawing and then a day for uh like running it through EbSynth and
Mm.
getting it into the program and backgrounds and effects. And then there's like a day for the audio editing. So that can normally fit in like 5 to 7 days.
Mm. This is one of those kind of like random thoughts where I don't know where it would fall into be kind of like naturally coming about in the progression of questions. Not that there's really any order, I guess. But
Hmm.
um the drawing pad that you have, the
Hmm.
tablet thingy. It's not like a doesn't have well, unless you upgraded, but it's just like a trackpad sort of thing with a pen, right?
Right. Yeah. I used to do it on my Surface Pro and
Hmm.
use the pen. So like I would have a screen, but it was really slow with like, doing keyboard shortcuts and
Oh yeah.
selecting tools and doing other stuff. So it like wasn't worth the screen having to be slower on the keyboard end.
Mm.
But then I just bought a Wacom, and once you kind of get past that learning curve of learning how moving the pen like works on your screen, it feels completely natural. It's almost like the same thing, like you're looking at a screen.
And that's kind of why I was asking, because a good while back I had bought one of those. Not like it doesn't have a very large drawing area, so maybe that's part of my problem when trying to use it again. But I saw your video and I'm like, oh, I have one of those. I should try it. Maybe
Yeah.
this will speed up my workflow. And then I workflow as if I've been doing a ton of things, whatever. The process, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I plugged it in and I was like, all right, I can't control. Why is it? Okay, I'm done. And I just went back to the mouse. It was kind of like, it was just frustrating in some ways, but like, so I imagine there is a learning curve to be able to naturally kind of use one.
bit.
How long did it kind of take you to get used to it?
It's like a day or two, I think. It's also great when you have pressure control, because like before I used to have to like switch brush thickness like constantly. But it's like, oh, if I'm drawing an eye, like the eyelid line needs to be thinner than like the thick outline. I don't want, you just press lighter and you get that thinner line.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, kind of random thought, but was wondering. Speaking of work and like the different animations, what goes into it and all that stuff, what is your favorite animation that you've done? Is there one that kind of stands out as like your favorite?
I think it's not my favorite in the visual sense, but in concept sense, it's the memory foam pillow video. I think just the concept is funny, and how it lands on the pillow tinchery pun. That's just so good. I also do think that I think that was the first video I'd used. My camera's record in 60, play it back slower at 24 frames feature, so it kind of had that like cinematic aspect to it, and still worked in EbSynth, which I was happy about since it was slow-mo. But yeah, I think that's my favorite. Conceptually, I'm thinking, I think one of the more recent Star Wars ones, either of the two, because they're kind of the same visually, are like some of my favorite. Just like, I like how the lightsaber duels came together, and some like camera movement in there as well. What is the challenge?
See, I have not been able to figure it out. And even in this game, I'm like, right now I'm sitting there, I'm like, is it like calling, like if they have another one, then you win the challenge? I don't know. I'm going to try it and see if there's any sort of rhyme or reason to it that I can pinpoint. And there's not. I don't know. Kind of bugs me. And I also don't quite know which rule. It must be like no bluffing, maybe, if I enable that.
Maybe.
I think that might be the one to disable it, but yeah. Anyway, the next section I have is about work-life balance and burnout. Obviously, creating content can be very time-consuming and daunting. So how do you maintain a balance between, well, creating content and any side work / personal life?
Yeah. So after finishing a big project, I'll allow myself usually a day, sometimes two, just to relax and not work on anything. I feel like sometimes not having that breathing room, you kind of get into the cycle of your content creation being like as much as, if not even worse than, like a 9 to 5, where you feel like you just don't have time to breathe and relax, which is important to avoid. And also I feel like my ideas develop better if I don't immediately finish a video and then try to squeeze out the next idea. Like oftentimes if when I'm not thinking about video ideas, when the better ideas will show up. So
yeah.
it works both ways.
Yeah.
And then just remembering that like the content and like serving the algorithm is not, the most important thing, and remembering to say yes if you're invited places, and not always decline because I've got work to do, I can't, sorry.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, I think that probably also answers the next question, which would be how to avoid burnout. And it's
Yeah,
probably intentionally giving yourself room to breathe.
yeah.
So
Taking a day like, hey, I worked for a week, I got a video out, I could take a day.
So I guess I already asked advice for aspiring content creators. I think I already put that. Well, I did put it elsewhere, but I don't know. I guess it is slightly different. If the answer is the same, just be like skip or pass or whatever. But
Okay.
what advice would you give for aspiring content creators, whether it be technique, a direction to resources, or overall advice?
Yeah, it's important to make what you're interested in. I think a lot of times you'll find channels that are just making content because they want to make content. Like they want, like, I don't know what the stat is, but like being a YouTuber is like, if like you ask kids like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like that's like the most common answer.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people will make a channel like, oh yeah, this is gonna be my full-time job, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna make Five Nights at Freddy's videos. It's like, you really, really enjoy Five Nights at Freddy's, and can people tell, or are you just doing it because Markiplier did popular videos?
Yeah.
You're just, I think it's really easy for people to tell when you're making what you like and when you're not. And I think that when they see that you are making what you like, it's easy to latch onto that.
Yeah. I mean, because it's more genuine.
Yeah.
It's not like this, I don't know, over analysis of what's going to perform well. It's
Yeah.
kind of like,
Also,
or even just thinking what's going to go well. I don't know.
This is a purely technical tip, but the tags on YouTube videos, they don't do anything.
Yeah.
They do nothing. You can leave it blank and you're good to go. Don't worry about it. Every channel that has 10,000 subs that tells you how to get big on YouTube will tell you that's important. It's not. You're good.
I slowly realized that, because like I went through a period of time where it's just like researching every day on like good strategy and what I can do to get view, all this stuff. And I installed the vidIQ extension, and it's like all this stuff, and it's like this SEO score, and it's like all this. And then like recently I'm like, does that even actually matter? And then like slowly developing into other videos, other people are like, no.
The only thing that they can like see to like tell you about on your videos, besides like, description and title and whatever, is like the tags. So it's like the one thing they latch onto, like all those services.
Yeah.
It's the one thing they latch onto and like try to get you to like pay for help with.
Yeah.
When it literally does nothing.
Oh no. 6. Yeah. The next thing I have is questions from the class. And then I have one final question for you.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I put out a community post asking if anyone that is interested in animation, what kind of questions they have, we could maybe answer, or just overall just curiosities that they have, whatever it may be. A user that is at Honey I'm Home wrote, "How many animators does it take for Disney to make another crap movie?" So I guess that one's probably more so rhetorical.
It takes one boardroom.
So more of a serious one. Tristan Jessup asks 2 questions. First one is, it's my turn. What advice would you give to aspiring artists in any field, not just animations? So more specifically, I guess, because it's kind of another iteration of the question I've asked twice, I guess. But this is, I mean, aspiring artists. If it's any different, maybe we've already answered. But
it's a little different for. I mean, not entirely same principle, but just learning like to develop over time and being able to allow yourself to be done with a piece so you can move on, because you're going to learn different things from different pieces, and like you could sit and work on the same piece of art for months and be a perfectionist and not learn much, or you could, in a month you could work on like 5 or 6 pieces, and like across those you'd get different learning experience. I think the challenge has to do with the color. Like if you set it to red, I'm like, I don't think you have reds. You're like, yeah, I have reds. It's like, oh,
you might be right. Wait, so I changed it to red. Then what did you click?
I challenged, and all of your cards were red.
So you challenge it as if like, so if I didn't have any red,
I guess it's for like if you suspect someone else doesn't have that color and you set it to that for that reason, I can challenge you like, yeah, you don't either. And if you don't, then maybe that's just a theory, a game theory.
That could make sense. I don't know. Then same user asked a variety of questions. I'm gonna really quickly look through and see if there's any that we didn't already cover. I think we kind of already covered those things. What is your dream project? Is there anything that you're just, that's something that's like you have yet to complete, but you're like really desiring to?
I mean, I have an idea in mind for like an episodic show that, maybe one day would get pitched somewhere, but like dream job, like optimal circumstances. If Star Wars Visions did a season that was like strictly for comedic shorts, hit me up.
Are you do you follow a lot of like, are you up to date on Star Wars and all that stuff, or do you?
Yeah, even when it's not great, I'm watching.
Okay, same. So possible spoiler territory, because I want to know your thoughts on the Ahsoka series. Now that
I thought it was a little bit slow here and there. I thought Baylan Skoll was like one of the greatest things to come out of Star Wars in recent times, and bringing Hayden back was great. A lot of the complaints I saw was people just being like, "Oh, the Ahsoka show is just like, look, you remember this? Do you remember this?" It's like, that's how I know you are only on Twitter and just saw screenshots and didn't watch, because like, I felt like anytime someone you knew showed up, there was like strong narrative reason for them to be there. Because that's what
people posted on Twitter, is like when there was cameos or whatever it may be, there's like a reoccurrent, a character showing back up. It's like, oh, look. It's like that they only saw the screenshots. I think you probably are pretty correct on that.
Yeah. But I overall, I thought it was pretty good, especially if you watched and enjoyed Rebels like I did.
Yeah,
it was pretty good continuation.
I enjoyed the show quite a bit as well. I did think it was slow, but I didn't find that to be a problem, really. I was still interested in it. I really do hope they continue Baylan Skoll's character, and I think the best approach probably is animation.
That, like, I would be surprised if we didn't get a Tales of the Jedi episode in a later iteration of that. But even if they needed to recast, I think they'd have a few solid choices, and I would be down for that.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm wondering. I did see a couple of like fan recasts, and some of them kind of look like they could be good. So there is potential there, but I definitely liked where he was going with that character and stuff, and
yeah,
it's interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I just wondered your thoughts because you were freaking Star Wars is like love it.
I get that.
Anyway, back to the the user questions. If there's any left, how do they keep a healthy work-life balance? We talked about that. What brings you the most fulfillment in your work? Do you think?
I think it's just seeing comments and talking to people who have enjoyed my work, or like people that I know that are like shocked when they like see a video like somewhere besides YouTube, like it got big enough to get posted elsewhere, and they're like, oh, I know that person. Whoa. But like text me like, I saw this here, and I'm like, thanks.
I see.
Yeah, I think that's fun. Also just just that part where your vision comes to life.
Yeah,
love that part.
Translating what's up in your head
like,
into
you got a blue,
a physical kind of, at least visible version.
Yeah.
Do you have any idols? That's the last part of their question. Like anybody you look up to with your content, or just, I guess, in life,
man.
really, I guess. I mean, whether it be in creative aspects or overall.
I'll make this question easier for myself and shift it a bit as to some of my favorite animators on YouTube. And I think I can point you to two of my favorite, which are Terminal Montage and We're the Kids. I think both are super funny, super creative, and go check them out.
Okay. Last question from a user. What is their username? Bogo's Binted. I don't.
Bogo's Binted.
Is that what that says?
It's a thing. Yep, Bogo's Binted.
What do you really quick? Do you want to elaborate? Because you seem to recognize that.
Oh gosh, what is this from? I think it's like a. Was it a commercial or is this a meme? I don't remember. I don't think it's a commercial. Oh yeah, it's. I just quickly looked it up just to be safe, and on Know Your Meme, I didn't know this. It's just from a Tumblr post, where it's just a screenshot from a text conversation. Hey, just wondering if you got your photos printed. Bogos minted? What? Alien emoji. And that's it.
That's so stupid. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that doesn't make sense, but I understand it.
No, it doesn't.
So, okay. Thank you for looking that up and clarifying it and everything. Well, they write, I am a new animator. Should I start with Blender or something else? And then I asked, what kind of animation are you shooting for? They said 3D, and then in parentheses, not sus stuff. I want to make so yeah. And he goes, I want to make short films since filming IRL is too expensive, and then post them to YouTube. Love your content, by the way. And I said, love the clarification. Wouldn't have even thought of that, but I'll be sure to bring this up. And I think what they're going for is like, if they're looking to do 3D animation, is there any maybe entry level kind of programs that you're aware of? Or
Blender's free, it's open source, and it's super powerful. And I feel like a lot of the concepts that you could learn in Blender could go into other programs if you felt like switching or upgrading. But like lots of people do incredible stuff in just Blender, so it's entirely possible.
What was the program you said? What's it called?
For what?
You said, well, like a free well, I guess Blender's free, but a more simple kind of. Wasn't there one you mentioned?
Oh, it was Mixamo, which is just for auto rigging the characters and for applying some animations to them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously with Blender, it's like, I feel like you can accomplish pretty simple things through a couple of YouTube tutorials, but then obviously the learning curve is like insane
Yeah.
with that. So that, yeah, probably would be probably a good bet to go for first. But that's the end of the user created ones. My last question to you is what does the future look like for you and your channel?
I'm just gonna keep doing what I've been doing.
Nothing wrong with that. But okay. I don't know if you have anything you wanted to talk about as we wrap up our game here, but I mean, that's the end of my questions and stuff. So
yeah, draw 4 AI snow. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
All righty. Well, pleasure having you. No, it really, I enjoyed our conversation a lot, especially, well, multiple angles of it, just looking at learning about you as a creator, what goes into your work, and just kind of overall like what has inspired it and where, I don't know, where it started and some of that stuff, but then also kind of more of the technical stuff. Like I feel like lately I'm just like each day is like Googling and then doing YouTube tutorials on this and that to learn something new. So just learning some more of that you use is I'm nerding out a little bit with it. But no, I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what you do with the information.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you have a content creator whose story you want to hear, please comment their channel name and I'll try to get them as a guest. If you are a content creator that would love to share your story, please fill out the linked request form in the description. Otherwise, we'll see you next time for another episode of Uno Mas.